The committee room fell silent. Ken Paxton, the embattled Attorney General, had just made his 9th interruption in less than 20 minutes. His face was red, his composure cracking. Across from him sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, calm and unshaken. "Mr. Paxton," she said, her voice like steel, "you've interrupted me 9 times. Would you like to make it 10? The tension was electric. Paxton leaned forward, sure of himself, ready to bulldoze her once more. But Crockett had been waiting for this exact moment. She reached into her leather briefcase, pulled out a single document, and set it on the table. Her eyes locked on his. The message was clear. Game over. What followed was not just a clash of personalities, but a dismantling of a career built on bluster. That morning, Paxton had walked into the federal building like he owned it. At 60, his silver hair slicked back and his navy suit pressed sharp, he carried the confidence of someone who'd never been forced into a corner. For years, he'd bulldozed through congressional hearings with interruptions, legal jargon, and intimidation. But his bravado masked a growing storm. Whispers of corruption, misuse of taxpayer money, and questionable contracts had been building for months. Crockett was nothing like what he expected. At 42, the freshman congresswoman carried herself with quiet authority. A former public defender, she had earned her reputation for precision in legal debates. Unlike Paxton, she had no interest in theatrics. For 3 weeks, she and her team had been buried in preparation. Her office looked like a war room, whiteboards covered with timelines, stacks of documents cross-referenced with statutes, financial flowcharts pinned across every surface. She knew Paxton's habits, his patterns, his blind spots. She had studied his every move and was ready. When the hearing began, Crockett's first question seemed harmless. "Mr. Paxton, can you explain why your office spent $2.3 million on outside consultants last year?" Paxton smirked, cutting her off before she could finish. "If you'd read the report instead of partisan talking points, you'd know those expenses were justified." Crockett remained calm. "I'm asking the questions, Mr. Paxton," but Paxton interrupted again and again. By the 6th time, murmurs spread through the gallery. By the 8th, legal observers were scribbling notes, sensing something unusual. Crockett marked each interruption quietly on her notepad. After the 9th, she leaned back. "You've now interrupted me 9 times. Would you like to make it 10? Paxton scoffed. "Oh, please, enlighten us with your gotcha moment." "That," Crockett said with a smile, "is interruption number 10. The room hushed as she pulled out the first document. "This is a conflict of interest disclosure from Maxwell & Associates, one of your office's biggest contractors. Their senior partner, James Maxwell, is your law school roommate and the best man at your wedding." Gasps filled the chamber. Paxton shifted uneasily. "His firm has received more than $800,000 in contracts from your office, despite having no background in federal compliance law. Their specialty is personal injury cases." The blows kept coming. She revealed bank records showing Maxwell's firm funneled $50,000 to a shell company registered under Paxton's wife's maiden name. Then came the metadata evidence. Nearly half of Paxton's official emails had been automatically forwarded to a private account linked to that same shell company. Confidential state business had been funneled to his personal interests. His legal team behind him began to panic. "Mr. Paxton," Crockett said, "since you've accused me of not knowing federal law, let me introduce federal case number 2023 CV8847 filed yesterday in the Northern District. It's a federal investigation order citing violations of mail fraud statutes." Paxton froze. For the first time, he had no words. Crockett wasn't finished. She detailed whistleblower accounts from his own office, senior attorneys who accused him of altering legal opinions, threatening staff, and rerouting resources for personal gain. She listed federal statutes by heart: mail fraud, honest services fraud, unlawful interstate activity. With each citation, Paxton seemed to sink deeper into his chair. Finally, she held up the thickest document yet. "This is the federal asset forfeiture notice, filed against your personal and business accounts. $847,000 in payments, traced directly from state contracts to your private firm." Her closing question struck like lightning. "So, Mr. Paxton, since you've interrupted me 10 times to question my understanding of federal law, let me ask you one final question. Which federal prison would you prefer to serve your sentence in? The committee room exploded. Members shouted. Reporters rushed out to file breaking stories. Cameras caught Paxton staring blankly at the table, his career unraveling in real time. Within hours, Cas Paxton exposed trended nationwide. Clips of Crockett's takedown went viral, celebrated as a masterclass in preparation and accountability. Legal experts confirmed the document's authenticity. Former prosecutors pointed out the severity of the charges, decades in prison. Paxton issued a defiant statement, calling it a witch hunt. But federal prosecutors quickly confirmed the filings were real. His own party began to distance itself. Donors withdrew support. The state bar opened ethics investigations. Meanwhile, Crockett's star rose. Donations to her re-election campaign surged. Legal scholars praised her preparation. Her methodical, document-driven style became known as the Crockett method. Months later, Paxton resigned while facing federal charges. His associates flipped on him, pleading guilty in exchange for leniency. A year later, he was convicted on multiple felony counts and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Crockett, re-elected with a record margin, stood before her supporters on election night. This victory isn't about me. It's about proving that preparation, principle, and persistence will always defeat arrogance and corruption. The clip of her calmly turning Paxton's 10th interruption into his undoing had been viewed over 20 million times. It became a case study in law schools, an inspiration for young attorneys, and a reminder that in American democracy, knowledge and preparation still hold the power to bring the mighty down. The story of Paxton's interruptions and Crockett's precision didn't just end a career. It reminded the nation what accountability looks like when someone finally comes prepared.